Hey Nathan, first thing first, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us on the Growth Mindset podcast. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to getting into it with you.
Awesome. So before we dive into introductions, Nathan, I want to get to the main topic so that people can understand what is going to be the theme of this conversation, right? And I want to start off with something that is the most important thing, child abuse. So what are some common signs of child sexual abuse that parents or caregivers should be aware of?
I think if you see your child regress, if they're an extrovert, if they're out there and talking and having fun and playing with friends and enjoying their life and their childhood, and then all of a sudden the next day they've gone from an extrovert to an introvert. They now just want to sit in their room. They're quiet. They won't express how they feel. They're scared to talk. They won't eat. They won't, they're in pain. There's bruises. I think it's easy, but it's hard. And because it is our child, I think, the most important thing is to educate our children. To do that, we first need to educate ourselves. But I think what we need to do is let our children know that they're going to be safe. They're going to be okay. If they have something to talk about, if they have something to say, they're going to be believed. Because I think that's a major thing. And I'm not sure what it's like in India, but, I'm from Australia, but I live in America now. And I've heard so many stories of young men and women who have been abused. They will then go and tell their parents or tell family or tell someone that what happened to them, and their mum or their father or whoever it is they tell say, don't be silly, that didn't happen. You're lying. Why do you want to get that person into trouble? And if that happens, if they are told that the very first time, they are going to suppress that trauma. They are going to bury it deep down inside and they're never going to talk about it for years. And that's when the addictions start, the drugs, the violence, the sex, the
Mm,
whatever it is they need to do to cope and handle that trauma and deal with that trauma. So that's what I did. I didn't tell a soul for 25 years. It first happened when I was 8. I didn't tell someone until I was 32 years old. And and I think the most important thing we can do with our kids from the youngest of age, when they can start to understand language and put words together, we need to tell our children that their penis is called a penis, a vagina is called a vagina. We don't give it nicknames. We don't make jokes about it. We don't play with it. We don't do all that stuff, because if we do that as parents, then if some stranger comes along, they are going to give it a nickname, play with it, make jokes about it. And this young child is going to think it's all fine. This young child is going to think that's the normal. So we need to let them know that if someone does do that, if someone does approach them, if someone does touch them, if someone does give their penis or a vagina a nickname, they need to stand up and say no. They need to stand up and tell someone, and they will be believed. They will be okay. They're not going to get in trouble. Police, if we go to the authorities, if we go to whoever we go to, they are going to be okay. They're not going to, like I said, get in trouble, and they're going to be fine. They're going to be loved. They're going to be listened to, because that's the most important thing as an abuse survivor and speaking to many others. All we want is for people to listen to us. All we want, sorry, I just woke up. What? all we want is for people to listen to us. All we want is for people to sit with us and just be there. That's the most important thing.
yeah, and one of the pointers that while you were talking, Nathan, that really struck me was, and I think that's a very important observation people can make as parents, right, or caregivers, is that the sudden change in the behavior of a child is a very good indication of that something is wrong. Why did this person, often suddenly an extroverted person, now is getting introverted or not talking to us, being aggressive, right? Now, one of the other things you also mentioned is giving objective names to our bodies, whatever it is, right? Penis is a penis, vagina is a vagina, and so on. And I think one of the other facets to that conversation is oftentimes I also think, and this is potentially mostly, I think, in India and also human nature, where when you know someone, like let's say your child has kind of been abused, your child comes up to the first time and shares that and saying this and this person, maybe that's close to your family, and that person did this to me. you might shrug it off because we ourselves don't know how to handle that
Absolutely not.
as parents, right? We are like, okay, why is he saying this? This is a very uncomfortable conversation that my kid is bringing up. Maybe that guy, we just cut some slack to these individuals, sometimes not knowing that that might actually be the case, right? So, how do you think first parents can set those boundaries, right, to those children, telling them what is right, what is wrong, and how should we as parents also become mindful so that we are not defending others and listening to our parents, to our children?
I think I think the way to set boundaries is just to sit and talk to the children. Tell them the difference between right and wrong. Tell them what is okay,
Mm,
what's not okay. Tell them, yeah, just this is right, this is wrong. You can do this, you can't do this. If someone does this to you, that is not allowed. If someone touches you, even if it's not in the penis or the vagina, if someone touches you anywhere on your body belongs to you.
mm,
We just need to let them know what is right and wrong. We just need to let them know the difference in people's behavior, in what they say, in grooming, in lies, in the manipulation of things. I think most important, let them know that if something does happen, to tell the parents. If something does happen,
mm,
they are going to be believed and be okay. And also, you know, a lot of abuse, I think 75% of abuse happens within the family. So we need to within schools and organizations start having these conversations so that if a parent is abusing the child, if a father or a mother is abusing a child, or even a grandparent,
mm,
they have access to people at school, to a counselor, to a teacher, to the principal, to whoever it is, that they have access to that. They are able to do that. They are able to talk to these people and say, this is happening to me and I'm scared, or it's hurting me, or this person is doing this and I don't like it. So I think as a school or as a, you know, an organization, as a town, as wherever we are, we need to start setting rules and boundaries and regulations. And the people who are doing these things to these young kids, they need to be persecuted to the fullest extent of the law. They need to go to jail.
yeah.
They need to be in trouble, not get away with it, not walk away because they have money or they have influence or they're a certain person, or the kid who is telling on them comes from a poor family or is not the most educated kid. So we are not going to believe this kid. We are going to believe the adult. That's, you know, it's the
Mm,
way it is right now. It's all about money and power. Look at Jeffrey Epstein and his people and being able to get away with what they get away with because they have money and power. And people like you and I can't touch them because of who they know, who they're paying off, whatever the situation is. So I think what we need to do is just let these kids know they're going to be believed and they're going to be okay. Set up rules, regulations, whether it's at school, in the family house, in sporting arenas, in the Boy Scouts and stuff like that. Set up parts of that, or a special teacher, a special coach, a special someone that you can go and talk to. So it's quite simple.
mm,
It's so simple, but then we just complicate it so much with the outside noise, with the Instagram, with social media, with all of that stuff. So I think education is key. And it starts with us. It starts with us as adults, as leaders, as thinkers and doers,
yes.
as people who make rules and regulations, people in politics and parliament and stuff like that. That's where it starts. And if these people don't do it,
Yeah.
if they don't want to educate themselves on it, how are we then going to educate our children if the authorities then so that's where the gap is. That's where we're falling down. That's where it's not working.
Yeah. I love the point which you mentioned, Nathan, which is around the fact that it starts from us as parents, as caregivers, right? This responsibility of educating ourselves so that we first understand what is happening and then set boundaries, train our kids as to what is a right touch, what is a wrong touch. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say,
You want to say
when
something?
you spoke about it earlier, how as adults we find it uncomfortable, and we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So if we don't want to talk about it and
Yeah.
we find it uncomfortable, then we're not going to talk to our kids about it.
True. True. And I think this is a very kind of like a taboo subject in countries like India and in other countries as well, where this is something that people think don't happen. But obviously, the data shows otherwise,
Yeah.
right? For example, I know there is a data that I was going through, like 60% of these sexual abuse usually happens to kids, and most of them, like 60% of them, are males.
Yes.
They are boys.
Yes.
And people don't even recognize it. When we talk about sexual abuse, they think it's
It's
only
only
the
women.
women. It's only the yeah, right. But that's not the true scenario. It's both basically schools or kids at school, kids going to play. It's probably the own family members, as you mentioned, 75% of those cases. I think these are some things that we really need to identify. Do you have any stats that kind of talk about
Sure. Well, like you said, I was going to say that
the
at
sexual
a
abuse on those? Yeah.
at a younger age for the young children, 60%, like you said, it happens more so to young boys than it does to young girls. But then as these young kids get older, the teenagers, the adults, it's more women than men, obviously. They
Yes.
say it's 1 in 6 men to 1 in 4 women, 1 in 3 to 1 in 4.
Mm,
But when
yeah.
you think about the thousands and thousands and thousands of men that will
Yeah.
never ever come forward because of shame, toxic masculinity, all of that stuff,
Yeah.
it's almost 1 for 1. So it's almost 1 for 1.
Mm,
And then the last stat is 80%, 80% of global suicides are male. So it's only 20%
wow.
female, 80% are male, and 70% of those are due to unresolved childhood trauma. So it's all right there. The answers are right there. But like you said, as a society, we want to turn a blind eye to it. We want to pretend it doesn't exist. It's a taboo subject. It's too heavy. It's too dark. Men don't get raped. Don't be silly. Why are we talking about men being raped? That
Yeah.
doesn't happen. So it's all right there. So you think about it. 80% of global suicides are male. 70% is due to unresolved childhood trauma. So if we could help that 70%, if we can give them resources, if we can give them people to talk to, if we can let them know they're going to believe, they're going to be safe, they're not going to be seen as less than. Because I think that's the issue with a lot of men. If I come out and talk about my abuse, people aren't going to see me as a male. They're going to see me as someone less than a male because I was abused and I'm not strong and I'm not, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. So if we can fix that, just think about the snowball effect. Just think about the trickle down effect of how
Yes.
that 70% of people are going to be saved. Those men are going to be helped. They're going to be saved. They're going to be taken care of. And then we have to think about their family, their wives, their children, their parents,
Yes.
their brothers and sisters. And also, 80% of these global suicides, a lot of these men who are killing themselves, first kill their wives, kill their children, do a big family type thing where they don't want to live, but they don't want their family to live. So I know in America and, in Australia as well, there's a lot of domestic violence where men have so much built up anger inside of them because they've
Mm,
never dealt with their past traumas or their
yes.
abuse or how they're feeling or what's going on with them. So they suppress it. They let it sit inside of them. And then it just builds and builds and builds and builds until they they
Yeah.
lose it. They kill someone,
Yeah.
they abuse someone, they go on a shooting spree. So if we
Yes.
can help these people, imagine the effect it's going to have on society as a whole. Imagine the effect it's going to have on these people and their bubble, their people, the people in their lives. So it's not just these men who are being affected, it's everyone around them. If we can
Yes.
help
Yes.
him, we can help everyone else around him. So again, it's simple. It's all about education. But
Yeah.
and as simple as it is, it's still
Mm,
so difficult because we are still so far behind.
yeah. And I love the fact how you are connecting the dots from early childhood traumas that men or women might have faced that when not treated at a or not resolved earlier basically just topple up, topple up, topple up. And then these same individuals, when all of these things are not addressed, they go ahead and do the same thing to the other kids. And because they think that's how the world is.
Exactly.
And then, as you mentioned, we have school shootings, we have all of these different things just because all of those traumas that they went through and they think the world is like that. Right. So one small thing can become such a huge thing just in a few years, like just like how you mentioned, right? The snowball effect of one thing piling up to become such a huge problem down the lane for the society. And it all starts with education. And I want to specifically highlight here, right? When you say all of these traumas are obviously not healed, they are not treated. This is one of those means that people can probably educate themselves on. You and I having this conversation so that they can understand this is what is happening. Now, when people do understand, let's say a lot of folks that undergo this, as you mentioned, and I know a lot of men that have gone through this, they don't share this. Uh, all of us have, most of us have had faced that. I've had that, such experiences. I healed along the way. But now, people, it could be young kids, it could be teenagers, or it could be grown adults. If they've had this experience in their past, what do you think is a right way for them to start healing and take that journey?
For me, therapy saved my life. Being able to sit and talk to someone and then educate myself, understand what I went through, understand my relationship with my abuser, understand my relationship with my family, with friends, with lovers. Because as a result of my abuse, and my abuse went from 8 through to 13. My abuse was, 6 years. It was very rough and violent. He would throw me against the wall and choke me out, slap me, punch me, kick me, rape me violently. And it went from that through his grooming, his lies, his manipulation, it went from that into a Stockholm Syndrome relationship where I felt love for this man and the violence stopped, but the abuse was still there. He then abandoned me when I was 13. He just disappeared out of my life. And I say abandoned because he just disappeared. I felt love for this man and I just wanted to be with him and I pushed my family away. So he was my life. So for a year
Mm,
or two, I questioned who I was, what I was, where I belong in the world. Am I gay? Am I straight? He told me how special I was. Was I really that special? And then from 15, I would, ride my bike to the next suburb over. I would sneak into, it was an industrial estate, and I would sneak into these cruise lounges, sex clubs, gay clubs, and I would let these men feed me drugs. They would give me drugs. I would get ridiculously high and fucked up, and then they would rape me again. And then I would turn around and beat them up, bash them, rob them. Or half the time they would abuse me. They would beat me up. And that went on for 20 years, 25 years of me just doing that because that was all I knew. That was all and
mm,
I needed that to survive. I needed to feel those feelings again. When I hit my rock bottom, I told my very best friend for the first time, and then she helped me get into therapy.
mm,
And being able to, with my best friend, just being able to say the words, I was abused, I was raped, it felt like the weight of the world lifted off my shoulders. I felt
mm.
so much freer. Although, even though when I said it, I was like, oh man, this is real now. Now I have to do the work, or now
Yeah.
my story is out there. So I have to do the work. I need to start healing. Otherwise, I'm going to end up dead. I'm going to end up in jail or on the street. That's the avenue I was going, because I was shooting heroin. I was smoking crack. I was selling my body for sex. I was doing whatever I could to survive and to feel. And then through therapy, I started doing one-on-one therapy, then group therapy. I did rehab, AA, Narcotics, Sex Anonymous, and then just dropped those two back to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. So I did a lot of it, and it's been 12 years now, 13 years of constant work on myself. It's not a quick fix. It's not, okay, I'm going to go to
Yeah.
therapy for 3 months or 6 months and then I'm all better and that's it. And I can move on with my life. It's an everyday challenge. It's an everyday struggle sometimes. I have great days. I have bad days. I still suffer from depression. I still, am triggered by these things. But the difference is because I've done the work on myself, I know I know how
Mm,
to handle these triggers. I know how to deal with them. I know what they are. I'm able to sit in these triggers, sit in this depression, sit in this state when something hits me, for me, what I do is I sit in it. I see where it hits me on my body. I see how it makes me feel.
Mm,
And then I learn from it. I educate myself on it. I grow from it. I evolve so that when these triggers hit me again, I know what that is. I know how to handle it. I know
mm,
how to move forward with it. Because if I throw it away when stuff hits me, when I'm triggered, when I'm depressed, when I'm going through whatever I'm going through, if I throw it away and pretend it doesn't exist, it's just going to come back and hit me twice as hard, whether it's in a day,
yes.
a week, a month, a year. And then that, when it comes back and hits me, again, it's going to build and build and build and build until
Yes.
I act out, until I, fall off the wagon and I go out and start drinking again. I go out and be violent again. I go out and hurt myself. So I think the most important thing for people is to say the words "I was abused," is to surround themselves with people who are going to love them, who are going to listen to them, who are going to believe them, who are
Mm,
going to support them, who are going to be able to just put their arms around them and give them a hug and tell them that it's going to be okay. Because as I said earlier, all we want as survivors is for someone to tell us it's going to be okay, is for someone to tell us that we're believed, is for someone to just sit there and listen. And I'm not sure if you've heard the saying, it's okay not to be okay. Now,
yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
global thing and that's amazing. But we need to take that one step further. Because yes, it's
Mm,
okay not to be okay, but more important than that, it's okay to say you're not okay. Because because it's
mm,
okay not to be okay, but if you're just going to sit there and not be okay and not do
yes.
anything about it, what's the point? It's still going to hit you. It's still going to hurt you. It's going to kill
Yeah.
you. But if you can actually say you're not okay, that's the first step. That's when it starts. That's when the healing
Yeah.
process happens. But as long as you do it in the right and safe environment, as long as you do it, as I mentioned, with people who are going to believe you, who are going to sit with you. Because if you tell someone who doesn't believe you, again, they're just going to say, "Shut up, Nathan. You're lying. You're being an idiot. Don't
Yeah.
say that." And then I am going to suppress that. I'm going to bury that. And I'm never going to talk about it again because I think that no one's
Yeah.
going to believe me. I think that I'm not worthy of healing and of love and of help and of peace and safety and joy in my life. Because for me, the reason why I didn't tell anyone for 25 years was this man told me that this is what I wanted, that I deserve this, that I'm a piece of shit, that no one's ever going to love me, that no one's ever going to want to be with me, that no one's ever going to anything, that if anything happens to me, if I get anything, a great job, it's going to fail. So everything I went through and everything I did was as a result of this man's grooming and what he said to me. Yeah, I think the first step is just, and for people who have been abused, is tell someone you know is going to listen to you and going to believe you. Because the healing journey is hard. It's not easy. It's an up and down thing because you're going to go through emotions. You're going to go through things. You're going to remember. You're
Mm,
going to be triggered. You're going to remember things. And even for me, when I first started my therapy, I would go to therapy and be completely exhausted at the end of it and felt like even worse just by
mm,
expressing what I was going through. Even though that was healing me, even though that was making me feel better, I was still feeling like, oh my God, shit, I feel like a piece of shit now and I feel worse.
yeah.
And then I would go out and drink again, or I'd go out and do drugs again, or I'd go out and act out because that's still what I knew. But that stopped a long time ago. As I educated myself, as I grew, as I learn
Mm,
more, then all of those things start to fall away and you get your voice back. You find your power, you find your freedom. And that's what's most important.
yeah. I love there are so many important points that you mentioned, which I think if people could start acting on that, it could really change their lives, the lives of their loved ones, especially starting with the first one. And this is something that I've heard a lot of other people also and survivors also saying, right? It's you talking. Unless you don't share it, nothing's going to work
Exactly.
out. And you need to find individuals that listen to you,
Yes.
right? You need to surround yourself with people that are, I always say, better than you in all of these areas, spiritually, physically, financially, so that these are the kind of individuals that you are looking forward to becoming and kind of getting those traits. And they are uplifting you in all of these areas. Communicate this with them so that they could probably guide you in the right direction. Maybe they would have felt the same. Maybe they have figured it out or they can guide you. But there's at least a starting point for us to understand, okay, where do I go from here? What do I need to do? Right. And especially your word of saying, it's okay not to be okay. Right. But it is very important to be able to say this. And I think it just ties back beautifully to what you were initially saying. And one of the very important point that you also mentioned, Nathan, was the triggers. And I know, and there are two things that I want to dissect further because I know we are humans and we are basically our habits, right? Whatever we do day in and day out. Now, these triggers oftentimes are unconscious. Most people that are not aware of it may not even realize this. So, what help people understand what is a trigger, and this is specifically for people that might be going through that kind of an experience, a sexual abuse or something. So they can understand what does a trigger mean, how can I identify, and then how did you use your triggers to educate?
So a trigger is anything from a smell, a song, a sound, a voice, an action, someone touching you somewhere, or being in a place that you remember that will take you back to when you were abused, take you back to the person who abused you, take you back to that time, that place, that scenario through a song, through a sound, through a taste, through a location, whatever it is. And for some people, it's debilitating. For some people who go through a trigger and who feel a trigger, they fall to the floor, they cry, they can't move, they are paralyzed to a certain extent. Others, and for me, I would feel it, I would taste it, I would hear it, or whatever the situation was, I would feel it, taste it, hear it, whatever the situation was. And I'm like, oh, shit, fuck, there's something's wrong here. This takes me back somewhere. And then it would take me back to that place. And I would have to remove myself from that situation or from that food or from that restaurant or from that, that song or that
Mm,
music or whatever. I would turn it off. I would think. So for me, what I've learned, and this was a big part of my therapy, was to and I mentioned this earlier, when I do feel those triggers, instead of throwing it away, as much as I remove myself from it, I also want to educate myself on it. I also want to sit in that
mm,
trigger and think, what was that? What did that make me feel? And where was that from? And I will try and go back to that place and relive it so that I can educate myself on it and then move forward with it, evolve with it, grow with it, become a better person with it and because of it. So when I do that, again, if it hits me, if I go through it, I'm going to know what it is. I'm going to be able to handle it next time. I'm going to be able to feel it and say, okay, it's this. This is what I have to do. This is what I did last time. This is what I went through. And for all triggers and for all things that I'm going through, the most important thing, and I think this is what I've learned in my therapy and in my healing journey, it was three really important things that really helped me move through my trauma and be the person I am today. The first thing was my therapist asked me, or she said to me, didn't ask, she said, Nathan, if you could go back at this age and speak to your 8-year-old self, what would you tell him? And I would and ah about it. I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to tell him. I don't know. And then it came to me, then it hit me that what I would say to my 8-year-old self, what I would say to this young boy who was abused and lost and confused and pushing his family away and wanting to be with this man, was that I would tell him that it wasn't his fault. And that's the most important thing we can tell these survivors. Because again, I thought it was all my fault. I thought I deserved it. I thought I was a piece of shit. I thought I deserved to die. Once I did that, that weight just fell off me. it's like an onion. I was able to peel back those layers and start to understand my relationship
Mm,
with this man, and that was helping me to understand these triggers. Secondly, was finding forgiveness. But when I say finding forgiveness, I
mm,
don't mean finding forgiveness for this man who abused me. Finding forgiveness for myself, forgiving myself for the
yeah.
hurt I put onto others and the hurt that was put onto me. And once I was able to do that, again, I was
Mm,
able to educate myself, grow, evolve, learn more about my relationship with this man and with my family, with friends, and with lovers. And I think the most important thing that I learned in my healing journey, and this was something that really enabled me to understand and get through my triggers, was to own my shit, own who I am, the good, the bad, the ugly. You know, I put my hand up now and say, yes, I've done
mm,
a lot of bad things in my life. I've hurt a lot of people
yeah.
physically, mentally. I've done a lot of bad. But in doing that, in putting my hand up, in owning who I am, all of it, the ugly part of it, the nice part of it, the violence, the drugs, the sex, the all of it. I found my freedom. I got my voice and I got my power back. So this is who I am. If you don't like it, that's on you. I have been
Yeah.
through this, and this. And I've been through a lot in my life. And I now wear it as a badge of honor. I now wear it as this is who I am, and I'm not going to throw it away. Yes, I regret what I've done. I've hurt a lot of people and I regret it, and I am deeply sorry. But I can't change it. I can't pretend it's not there. I can't pretend it doesn't exist. So for me now, it's about educating myself on that so I can become a better person with it. I can move forward with it. I can evolve with it and grow with it. So then I can now use my pain, use what I went through to educate other people, to help other people, to shine light on child sexual abuse, on male sexual abuse with the world, to write these books, to write this movie and have it being turned into a movie. For me now, it's about having that global reach and being able to educate people, educate boys and educate men who have gone through it and say, you are going to be okay. But you need to do the work. You need to find it within
Yes.
yourself to move forward. I can't do it for you. I can't do the work. You're
Yeah.
going to want to do it. You have to do it. It's on
Yes.
you. Because I can push and push and push and push and try and try and try. But if you don't want to do it, you're gonna fall away. You're gonna move away from me and regress. So you need to do it. You need to say those first words of, I was abused. I'm feeling this. I'm going through this. I need help. I'm not okay. Whatever that situation is.
I mean, there are so many important things that you've highlighted. You've covered 2 pointers. You said there are three, right?
Well, one
One is
is, no, I did, I think I did three. One was forgiveness. One was telling
yes,
yourself,
you
going
going
back
back,
and telling
yeah,
yourself that
younger self.
it
Yes,
wasn't your fault. And then the third one was just owning who you are.
I see. Okay, so that's good. And I think what you mentioned, Nathan, also takes a lot of strength for individuals to be in that trigger, right? It's not a very safe place. Imagine when someone is going through this experience and they're totally paralyzed by it and they don't understand how to react. It's a very difficult place because you're reliving the same kind of experience over and over again, right? I don't know, I mean, like, I understand your mental resilience maybe was stronger. You had a therapist as well that guided you, kind of helped you. She listened. So, and the way you're looking at it, because the way you're talking, right, I can pick from your words that you were using your past experiences to grow in your life, to learn from those mistakes, and then owning up to it, right? And that is what gives us power to be able to not only do it ourselves, but also inspire others along the way. Because our journey, end of the day, we are humans, and that's how we learn and we grow. We make mistakes. None of us are perfect. But for someone who at the moment is totally, let's say, paralyzed when they have such an experience, such a trigger, it could be any sensory trigger, right? what is the first step? Let's say someone is alone in a room, they know things of this sort is happening or happening to him or her, and this is they are getting totally paralyzed. I think the first step is to talk. Yes, we understand that's, but how do someone handle that trigger first? And then obviously it comes next part,
So
which
if
is
you're in a if you're in a room
talking,
if you're in a room
sharing.
with someone, or if you're in a room that triggers you, or you're just in a bad state, I think first thing to do is try and remove yourself from that situation. Move
Mm,
to a safe environment where you're not being triggered, you're not surrounded by whatever it is, whether it's a trigger, whether it's the actual person who's abusing
mm,
you, whether it's music, whether
mm,
it's whatever it is try to remove yourself from that situation so that you can
mm.
calm down. Most important thing is to breathe. Just
Yes.
breathe. Because if we get triggered, if we get depressed, if we get anxious, and then it's just going to increasing, and we're not going to be able to calm it down. We're not going to be
Yeah.
able to settle down. So I think the most important thing is just breathe, deep breaths, and ground yourself. Ground yourself back into your body, back into your feet, so that you can actually then remove yourself from that situation. So just try and calm yourself,
Mm,
try and breathe, try and relax as much as you can, and then physically remove yourself from that situation. Then tell someone, this is happening to me, or I'm going through
yes.
this, or whatever the situation
Yes.
is. And sometimes it's hard.
Yes.
Sometimes you can't remove yourself from that situation. So again, if you can't physically remove yourself, again, try and breathe, try and calm yourself, try and ground
Mm,
yourself and get back into your body. Then
mm,
if you have a phone, call someone, or send someone a text and say, I need help, I need
mm,
this. There's a lot of hotlines now. There's, organizations, there's, the
mm.
police, or whatever the situation is. Try and call someone. And if you can't do that as well, try and make a signal for someone, or try and just whether it's out a window, whether it's by reaching over and touching someone, or whatever that situation is. But I think the most important thing firstly is to breathe and calm and ground yourself so that you can actually, if you can, physically stand, move, get
Yes.
back into your mind and into your head so that you think straight and you think logically, and you don't do something
Mm.
stupid, and you don't do something that's going to hurt you, or cause more pain.
I love it. And I think that's the most important part. I recall one of the conversations on my earlier days, I think a few years back, when I was interviewing a very well-known behavioral scientist who typically worked with a lot of high performance individuals, athletes. He told me about a technique which can calm the nervous system like instantly. It's a method that he teaches all of those individuals, which is 4 seconds in and 8 seconds out. So you breathe in for 4 seconds and you exhale for 8 seconds for a minimum of, let's say, 6 to 8 times. And if you start doing that, you would notice your cortisol levels will automatically start going down and you start feeling uh, a little bit more calm. And once you do that, I think some of the other things that I've also read and I've interacted with a few psychologists that have told me this can actually help is if you know you're going through this kind of a situation, you should actually go ahead and ensure, let's say if you're having thoughts, you're getting depressed, you need to get out of that place right away, right? You need to be out of that place. Go in sunlight,
Yes,
sit
yes,
in
yes, yes,
sunlight.
yes.
Sunlight is one of the best healers for you, so that you can go and get your vitamin D levels up, you can think straight. I think these, and third thing, which one of the other things that I've a lot of studies also have indicated is mobile phones, right? When you know you're going through all of these kind of situations, do not be stuck on your mobile phones at all times unless you're doing something healing process you're trying to learn, right? A lot of times what happens is we try to distract ourselves with mobile applications or devices, and then we start following content based on what is going in our lives, and that just creates that same endless loop
Yeah,
of back and forth, same experiences, same triggers over and over again. Now, this brings me to another point, which obviously is the fact in your case as well, right? You said that individual that you had that experience with when you were young, that the abuser that you had, in a sense, also groomed you by saying you don't deserve this. Things are going to happen to you. If something good happens, you're going to fail again, right? And a lot of abusers do this because that's the place they operate from, right? Now, what can do you think parents do, caregivers, friends do to ensure, right, this kind of grooming is not happening to their kids or
It's
their friends?
and
And how
that's
can we
interesting
prevent that?
because as much as he said, "This is what I deserve, and I'm a piece of shit, and I don't deserve love, and I'm, a bad little boy," he also told me on the other side of that, that he loves me and he's gonna take care of me, that I'm a special little boy, that my parents hate me, that my family don't like me, that if I tell anyone, I'll get in trouble, that I picked him up, that I picked him up and it's all my fault. So as much as there was bad, there was also good. And I think as parents, what we can do and caregivers, what we can do, again, it all comes down to education. It all comes down to teaching our kids to be aware of the signs, teaching our kids if people say this, and this to you,
Mm,
it's not right. It's wrong. If people tell you that your parents don't love you, if people tell you that you're a naughty little boy and that they're going to take care of you, the first words this man said to me after he raped me the very first time, the first words he said was that if I tell anyone, he'll kill me and he'll kill my whole family. So as an 8-year-old
mm,
boy, I believed that and I took that as gospel. So I didn't tell a soul. If I was educated, if my parents told me that if people say this to me, if people touch me, if people, you know, don't call it a penis or a vagina and make jokes about it and, all of that stuff, I would have been aware and I would have been able to prevent the
mm,
next 25, 30 years of my life of trying to kill
yeah.
myself, of being addicted to drugs, of shooting heroin, of violence, of all of that stuff. That would have been preventable if I was made
Mm,
aware as a child to look out for this. If someone says this, if someone touches you, if someone hurts you, if someone says something to you physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually, all of those type of abuses, if you feel any of those, tell us. You're going to be okay. You're going to be believed. But as a young child, I was not made aware of these situations,
yeah.
so I had no
Yeah.
idea. I thought that was the normal. He repeatedly told me how special I was.
Yeah.
I thought I was a special little kid. I had this man who loved me, who gave me these things, who did all these things for me, as wrong as they were, and I knew they were wrong and it was painful and I would cry and I hated myself, I still wanted that because I had pushed my family away. So I think we as we spoke about earlier, as adults, as thinkers, as doers, as leaders of communities, of schools, of families, we need to educate our children and just say A, B, C, D, E is right. A, B, C, D, E is wrong. So we need to just
Mm,
differentiate right from wrong or let our children understand the difference between right and wrong so that as soon as it happens or it's about to happen, they can stand up and say, no, don't touch me, or go and tell their parents, or go and tell
mm.
someone, or whatever that situation is.
So I think that those are very powerful and very important things that kids can actually do. I think, yeah, it all, as I see a very consistent pattern, right? It all starts first from education.
Yeah,
Everything starts
yeah,
from
yeah.
education, and then it goes to we being able to share this, right? If something is going bad in your life, if you know something, you're being abused, we have to start talking. And then we have to learn ourselves, educate ourselves every single day. As you said, it's a struggle, it's a battle that we have to do every single day as parents, as kids, to improve ourselves, learn about what's happening, learn about our own selves, our emotions, so that we can guide ourselves better in where we are. One of the areas that also kind of interest me, and I like to get your perspective, is obviously one thing what we spoke about is physical abuse that's coming in, right? Family members, but unknown relatives, anyone it could be. But the other type of abuse people could face, or grooming kids or teenagers might face, is online, right? With the digital age and everything. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think that is adding a layer of complexity to the current scenario? If yes, what can we do to ensure we can prevent people, as parents, as individuals ourselves?
Yeah, because when I was a kid, I didn't have to deal with that stuff because We didn't have it. We
Yeah.
didn't have internet. We didn't have mobile phones. We didn't have a lot of that.
Mm.
And I know, and I don't know the statistics, but online abuse is the cause of a lot of suicides, young kids' suicides, just with the online bullying and just constant. And these
Yes.
keyboard warriors who hide behind a
Yeah.
screen.
Seriously.
I think that's where legislation comes in. That's where the government and has to come in. I think in Australia, I'm not sure exactly because I haven't been there in a while and I don't live there now, but I think they just put in a rule that under 16 or something, I think TikTok and Instagram is restricted to a certain amount or level. So
Mm.
we need to start doing these and restricting kids to what they can see, what is going on online for the, and I know it's hard. I know it's hard to do it, but we need to again just
Yes.
put measurements in place, put rules and regulations in place at a government
Mm.
level to
Yes.
try and prevent online bullying. And I think this is where it's very important at schools as well. As a teacher, as a counselor, as a principal, they need to be more aware of what's going on so that they can stop it. They can, if they see it, if a child comes to them, they can go to the child's parents and say, your child is bullying someone. Your child is saying this to someone else online, and
Mm.
make the parents accountable. Make the parents accountable so that they
Yeah.
know what is going on, and then they can try and stop it if they care. And if they don't, and if something happens to this child, then they're the ones who are going to get in trouble, as well as this young child. So we need to be a lot harsher. We need to be a lot stricter on parents who don't care, on parents who don't want to police their children or don't want to not police their children, but don't want to
Mm.
educate their children, teach their children right from wrong. So I think
Yeah.
when it comes to online
Yeah.
bullying, it starts from a government level and legislation, but it's, I think our schools, our sporting environments, because a lot of kids are playing sport and get teased there because they're not as good as the other ones. I think it starts there where the principal, the teacher, the counselor, or the sports coach needs to be a lot more accountable. They need to have a little bit more responsibility in being aware, looking out for the signs of young Nathan who is being bullied his whole life and doesn't want to play or doesn't want to do anything or is self-harming or hurting themselves as a result of that. Holy shit, this is happening to him. I need to stop this. I need to be aware. I need to tell,
Mm.
firstly, I need to tell Nathan's parents, but then if Irshad is
Mm.
the boy who's hurting Nathan, I need to tell Irshad's parents so that they can stop it. They can be aware.
Yes.
They can try and prevent it. And they can discipline Irshad so that he doesn't do it again. And there's not enough of that. There's not enough of that going on. And that's why these kids get away
Yes.
with it because they're not being punished. They're not being held accountable.
Yeah. And it's very interesting and kind of ironic, right? When you see these kids, these keyboard warriors who obviously sit behind screens and are always commenting on people posts. When someone reports them or takes action against them, they are the first to cry. They're like the biggest crybabies that you would see, saying, they would never repeat this. And I think it starts from us reporting this, because if we don't report this, then these guys will just get more and more courage to do more than what they were doing, right? It just encourages them. Maybe to begin with, they were just calling you names, but then they get a little bit more aggressive towards bullying and how they bully you. So I think it's very important what you mentioned, that calling out those individuals that are doing it, and it starts this especially in social media starts from obviously the state, the government, because it is one of their biggest responsibilities to ensure all of that is taken care of. I want to also touch upon two other areas that I think are also very critical for us to prevent these kind of scenarios, right? Young Nathan, young Irshad, for that matter, is the neighborhood. What can a neighborhood community do, right? Which could potentially create a better environment. And then second, what can schools do? One of the measures you mentioned is, yes, teachers paying more closer attention to individual students, trying to identify patterns if they see any patterns. they highlight that, right? But there are anything else that comes to your mind in terms of schools that they could do? Because we have spoken about parents at home, we have spoken about legislatives. What about
Well, I
schools
think for
and
schools, I
neighborhoods?
think as we mentioned earlier, I think that teachers and counselors and the principals need to be more aware of what's going on and not turn a blind eye to it. If a teacher or a
Mm,
counselor, if young Nathan goes up to the teacher and says, again, Irshad is bullying me, or Irshad's doing this to me, or um, they're calling me names, or they keep hitting me or punching me or tripping me over, that teacher needs to take action. That counselor, that principal needs to take action. They need to call the children in and say, listen, you can't do this. You need to stop. Whatever the situation is, punish that child, whether it's whatever it is. And then they need to, again, from there, call the parents and let the parents know so that the parents are aware of what's going on so that they can become more accountable and they can possibly maybe change their home environment, because who knows what these young kids are going through. They may be being bullied. They may be being
yes,
abused at home so that they're acting out their anger on these other kids. And I think when it comes to the neighborhood and where we live, our home environment, I think we need to be more aware of our neighbors, of who we are and the people who live next door to us. And if they're good people, we need to know that they're good people and that we can trust them. We can go to them. We can run next door and say, my dad is hurting me, or my mum is hurting me, or this is happening to me at
mm,
school, or the person across the road there hurt me, or whatever the situation is. We need to have safe houses or safe places, environments within our
yes,
neighborhood. Whether it's, if it can't be our own because of the situation at home, we need to know that we can go to the person next or the person down the street or someone within our neighborhood that is going to help us, is going to believe us, is going to keep us safe. And then call the authorities, call the police, call the parents, call whatever the situation is,
yes,
call the school. So I think we just need to have safe houses and safe. And I know it's hard because you just don't know what goes on behind closed doors. So again, I think it all comes down to just being aware of who we are, being aware of who our neighbors are and our friends and our family, and then having that responsibility to do right, having that responsibility to help young Irshad or to help young Nathan and say, all right, you are going to be okay. You are safe now. You are going to be believed. Let's call the police. Let's call your parents. Let's call whoever it is we need to call to make sure this doesn't happen again, to make sure that if old man Billy down the road is hurting you, we get him to the police. We get him in trouble. We stop this from happening. So again, we need to come together as a community and start talking about this, start being more aware. Because if we have that one conversation, that one is going to turn into two, into three, into four conversations. If we can
yeah,
open that one door, we're going to open many doors that we can walk through. We can feel safe. Again, education is key. Education is key. Because if we start with that as adults, it's just going to trickle down to our children. If we start with that as adults, we're going to put measures in place to not only keep ourselves
mm,
safe as adults, but also our children safe. So I think that's where it is.
agreed. Yeah, and I totally agree to what you mentioned, right? And I think there are a few things that come to my mind that I think schools and neighbors or the neighborhood, the locality can do, right? I think with regards to school, a lot of schools, some schools have it, but not a lot of schools have dedicated counselors or teachers that necessarily talk to these individuals, right? The kids. I think it's a very good practice where we could have a dedicated teacher or even a teacher that can at times on a regular basis just checks with individuals kids, right, as to how are things at your end, how are you doing, is everything good at school with you, are you like being proactive, taking proactive measures. I think could also help schools really stay one step ahead, because I know, as you mentioned at the beginning, right, one of the major challenges kids face is they they kind of get into a cocoon of not being able to share what's happening because they've been threatened. So they're scared of even opening up. But if schools also kind of have teachers create teachers or leaders inside it where they can proactively start making kids safer. Maybe that's an avenue where kids can then slowly start opening up about, what is happening, what is not happening. Because I know some schools do it, but there are also a lot of schools that don't do it because all teachers sometimes are concerned about is teaching what subject they are going to teach to their students, right? So that's additional work that someone has to do. But I think as schools or institutes, having someone that can check kids, teenagers at a young age, getting feedback, being proactive could really be helpful. And a similar kind of a logic can also be applied to our neighborhoods, localities. And I think this is important because this conversation that we started, this is just, as you mentioned, like opening a door for other individuals so that other individuals now who might have gone through the same experience, we take ownership. We try to give back to the society where we say, you know what, this has happened in the past, maybe not with me, maybe with someone else, maybe my loved ones. What can I do? What is in my control to ensure that this does not repeat? No one's telling you to solve the entire battle, but at least we can the neighborhood community can come together to create like a group or a society where we can talk about these things to begin with to ensure that, what, if something is going wrong in our neighborhood, you can come back. The reason I say this is also because we are seeing a lot of young kids these days are going ahead and trying drugs, smack, all of these other things, right? And this is obviously coming in because these kids have traumas and nothing is being properly addressed. And this mostly happens in lower uh, income groups, right? Because they don't have the proper amenities, they don't have people that they can talk to, the teachers that they can guide. So I think as individuals who have communities, I think it's important that all of us come together, create our own groups, communities where we maybe go volunteer and talk to people. Maybe it's just a step in the right direction. And I've noticed this. People once when they start doing this, when they come together, they go to these institutes, colleges, schools, they start enjoying more because there's a lot of studies that indicate, right, when you give back to the community, you actually feel more satisfied and you feel more better, right? So it's what you give in return
Absolutely.
is what you're
And I
also
think when
getting.
it comes back to the schools as well, and as much as the schools need to be more aware and need to help and need to change the situation, a lot of these richer schools, upper class schools, if
Yeah.
these things happen in these schools, the principal or the teacher will be quiet about it. They'll hush it down because they don't want to ruin their
Yeah.
reputation. We're the best school. We have the best
True.
students. We have, people pay the most money to come to our school. But if there is a history of sexual
Yes.
abuse or bullying within this school, they quieten it down because they don't want to lose their reputation. So we need to be aware of that as well, and we need to be
Yes.
more cognizant of that because if it's happening in a school and the school's not going to help us, we then need to go outside of the school. We need to go to the police. We need to
Yes.
go tell our parents. We need
You
to
got
go
it.
to
Yeah.
the newspaper, to someone who is going to help us and then kind of
Exactly.
really open up and have start this conversation. We're never going to end child abuse. We're never going to prevent it. But if we can save one kid's life, if we can stop one kid from being abused or from hurting
Yes.
another or killing themselves or any of that situation, then we're on the right track and we're doing the right thing. But I think again, it
Yes.
all comes back to education and us as adults starting it and learning about these difficult situations that we don't want to talk about and we don't want to know about it. Because if we do that, we're then going to understand, we're going to see the signs a lot quicker. We're going to see it in people a lot quicker. We're going to be able to help our
Mm.
children, help our family, help those around us. And isn't that the most important thing? Isn't the most important thing our children, our future, our legacy? So why wouldn't we want to help that? Why wouldn't we want to prevent
Yes.
them from being hurt and abused and drugs and addictions? Yeah, it's simple, but it's so complicated and twisted.
Yeah. True. True. And I think you rightly mentioned one thing, which I think is the main crux of this conversation, right? Like saving one kid at a time and teaching, spreading awareness about this topic to their kids. I think if we could save one kid at a time, that could help us save
Exactly.
generations down the lane. It's that snowball effect that is going to take place. But we have to first start taking that step. We have to educate ourselves as adults and then help enable our kids so that they understand what is happening in and around them and not others grooming them. It is better that you educate them. You give them the definition between what is right and what is wrong. Get them out, let them explore, give them a very stable environment where the kids can actually express themselves openly without being scared or thinking that they're going to be shut down. I think that's the first step. As much as we have spoken, I think the first thing it all starts with is our families. If we can first take care of our families, we will have better impact in our communities, better neighborhoods, better cities, better states, better country, and
Absolutely.
at
I
the end
totally,
better
totally
world.
agree with that. That was very well said. It's all comes back to us and our families and taking care of each other and loving each other and supporting each other and educating each other and moving forward as
Yep, yep. Now we covered a lot of ground, Nathan. It was obviously
you
a,
too.
a great pleasure talking to you. I know, this is a conversation that we can even take even further, but that's a conversation for another day. We can do that in live, in person, as we were discussing. But folks that are probably interested in reaching out to us, and this is something that I want to give a message out. Anyone who's listening to us who might have gone through this kind of an experience, obviously there are a lot of places. If you go online, you'll be able to find people that will help you, listen to you. If not, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to guide you to the right direction. Nathan's here. Ping us. At least we'll be able to guide you to the right places where you will be heard and maybe you can start your healing process. So how can
I
Nathan
think the
people reach
best
out to
thing
you?
for me is reach out to me on Instagram. I think that's my most active one. So just follow me on that, reach out to me, and then I will get back to you and we can move forward from there with whatever the situation is. But yeah, I think first and foremost, just do my Instagram because that's what I'm on the most and that's where I'm most active. Follow me on that and then send me a message and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. And what would be your anyone who likes what you mentioned today, they like to follow you, they'd like to get in touch with you for whatever collaboration in the future, or just want to talk to you because they like what you mentioned. What is your Instagram handle? Any other places
It's just my
if
name.
there
It's
is?
just my full name. It's just Nathan Spiteri as one word. And I think when this comes out, can you post a link to it or something? Or yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, I will.
just my
I
name,
will add the
Nathan
link of that.
Spiteri,
Yes.
one word, very simple. Just get me on that, and then yeah, we'll talk on there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nathan, for taking your time out and joining us on the Growth Mindset
Thank you.
podcast.
Yeah,
It was
it
an
was
honor to
fun. It
have you
was
here.
really nice to have this conversation with you.